We're gonna get there. All right. Oh. Took a minute. I wasn't in my mode. I can't find my freaking cases to my earphones. It's driving me nuts. It's 2 days in a row. Ugh. But this one is going to be about intuition and perception. Let me see if I can bring this up. I'm just going to have this up there because I'll post it on my shit. But it's just understanding, you know, how people perceive things very differently from each other. And when somebody has done a lot of work in their life, whether it's from trauma work or whatever, you know, somebody that deals with themselves on a very intimate level. And I say this all the time, you know, you're not going to put up with your own bullshit. And so you won't put up with others. And this translates into, you know, when you start doing the work and you start getting around people that are very similar in nature and the way that you used to move and the way that you used to talk and the way they used to frame things up and make excuses for yourself, you start to recognize that in other people. You can see it, you can smell it a mile away. And whenever you're listening to somebody make excuses, even before it even leaves their mouth, you can hear it bubbling in their mind. You're just like, here comes the excuse. You know, you can feel it. It starts to, that thought pattern starts to emanate. You know, thoughts have energy. They all have a resonance. They all have a certain energy to them. So whenever you're thinking and you're about to make an excuse, in your mind, you're contemplating the excuse, going against your own intuition and knowing. And somebody that's already dealt with it, been through it, overcame those things, is on the other side of that, and they can literally feel that energy. They can feel it. It's almost as if they're inside your head listening to the excuse you're about to that's about to fall out of your mouth. I can hear an excuse bubbling in someone's head before it even leaves the mouth. Excuses are rehearsed internally before they are spoken out loud. That's the thing. You got to rehearse this excuse before you're about to say it. And it can happen fast, right? You can come up with an excuse and because you get so good at it, you get so good at making the excuse that you never get anything done in those areas that you're making an excuse in. Excuses are rehearsed internally before they are spoken aloud. Intuition reads the preparation phase. That's what I can just read it. I can hear, and it can happen so fast. I can tell before somebody's about to make an excuse before it ever leaves the mouth. I can feel it energetically. I can see the mannerisms. I can see, and you know how fast a person can come up with an excuse. I can see it and clock it before it ever even leaves the mouth. This isn't judgment. It's a pattern recognition built through repetition and exposure. It's something that I dealt with. You know, I'd make excuses in so many different areas. And it gets to the point where you go to make an excuse and it's just like, yuck, I can't. I got to be able to live in reality. And that excuse that I'm about to make is it's just a preempt to let you know, hey, you're about to bypass reality. And you always have a moment before you're just going to carry the excuse through. If you're going to really fulfill it, you know, instead of going, here comes the excuse, instead of just going, you know what, I'm not there yet or whatever. Like just being brutally honest and living in the moment, living in the present moment, living in the exact how it's supposed to be, you know, in the present. What's good, man? You're supposed to be able to live in the present moment, not in excuses. So I can hear an excuse bubbling in somebody else's head before it ever leaves the mouth. You aren't hearing the words yet, but the structure is already visible. I can see it through the pattern recognition. You know, I can see the person about to make the excuse. I can see it bubbling. I can see whenever that energy is connected where I'm looking at them, they're looking at me. And then like, here comes the excuse. And then it happens. And it's only because it used to be me. You know, I recognize it because I used to just be so ready with an excuse. But when you start to take care of business in your life, it won't do for you, and you won't put up with it from others. You become a mirror in that aspect. Listening to someone explaining shit without explanation actually given is mind bending. The mind detects when meaning is missing long before it can articulate why. Confusion is the signal, not the failure. So you get to hear people, they're just talking. They really ain't talking about nothing. They're trying to explain some shit without an explanation ever being realized or actualized. These people are on a loop. They're so good at talking a good game, but they can't live it out. They can't walk it. They can't embody it because it's surrounded with excuses. Words can be arranged to sound complete while saying nothing. Perception catches the void behind the sentence. You know, you just don't. You're not going to allow it. You can see it. You can feel it. And when somebody is not making sense, when somebody is not resonating with you, you can tell it right away. You know, what's good, man? You can tell it right away. To be able to sense other people's excuses before they are spoken is exhausting sometimes. Fatigue comes from perceiving more information than is being acknowledged. And that's what the people that do, you know, that go on to work on their life. And I'll get to the high horse thing, right? To where I'm not even putting myself above measure. I'm just going through stages of when a person starts to come up out of their own bullshit and no longer will allow excuses to rule their life. They recognize the patterns within themselves so they can get out of that pattern. Even if they do make the excuse, it won't last for long. They're not going to keep making it. That's the difference. And so if a person starts to live their life in such a way to where they're not making excuses and stuff and only want to point out stuff about other people and want to put themselves above measure, like, you know, that's where you're on a high horse. And then there's nothing left. There's just an inevitable fall because nobody has all their shit together in every area of their life. It's just impossible, right? So just because you're really great in this area doesn't mean that you are over here. And just because you present this and this is all the world sees doesn't mean you ain't got a whole bunch of stuff going on back here that's not being seen. So somebody can interpret me as, damn, this dude's done his work. He looks articulate, like he's articulating his things well. He's more together. His shit's on and popping. I would like to be like him. Maybe just in this area, but let's take a look behind over here where some things are not as together. You know, being able to be more emotionally intelligent as others is lacking in my life at certain times. And keeping things in a together fashion the way that I want and envision isn't the way it wants to be, where somebody could be looking at me and comparing themselves to me and going, oh man, he's the shit. But then they have all their shit together at home. Everything it's in its place. So there's no reason comparison. Just because I might have it together here doesn't mean it's all together back here. So there's no reason for the comparison. There's no reason to hold somebody in high esteem with what's being presented in front of you, because the camera's going to go off, you know, and you got to go back to real life and burying people and pets and dealing with sicknesses and diseases and getting diarrhea and all that shit. You know, nobody's immune to this. You're a process. Let's see, to be able to sense other people's excuses before they are spoken is exhausting. You're processing what is forming, not just what is expressed. Awareness becomes heavy when it has nowhere to go and nothing to resolve. So it's like if I'm dealing with somebody that's making an excuses in front of me and I've already dealt with that shit in my life and I can't deal with it, I won't. And I'm going to tell you, hey, you're making an excuse. And then they want to continue. Like there's nowhere to go with that. There's nowhere to go with that. It can't be resolved. It has to be resolved within the other person. You know, it just can't be. Transcending things only to watch others who haven't is a stark reminder to stay humble. So instead of going, oh man, all this person does is make excuse. All they do is make excuse. And then like you're starting to put yourself above measure. I'm telling you, man, when you start to transcend the things that you recognize in other people, and you don't acknowledge that and stay humble and be like, man, I'm glad at least I'm not where, I used to be this. I used to behave that way and all that. And it comes with an understanding. It doesn't come from a place of judgment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're grateful that you're not in that situation and circumstances, or the fact that you were blinded by so many other things in life where you didn't have attention and awareness enough to understand that this is what you're doing and this is what you're behaving and this is how it's perceived, because you're so busy wrapped up with other shit. But once it does happen and you transcend it, you can't get all high and mighty and be like, oh, look at them and I'm not doing that. And that's some bullshit, straight up bullshit. Seeing further does not exempt you from the process that got you there. Just because you can see beyond, you can see where a person is because that used to be you and they can't see it yet. You can't put yourself above measure. That doesn't make you exempt anymore. That was you at one point. Comparison collapses the moment you remember where your own clarity was forged. Where you remember, oh yeah, that's what it was like to be in that situation. Or that's what it's like to be in this situation or whatever. And I remember how hard it is. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I'm not in there. And instead of judging, you come with understanding. And you can meet a person right where they're at. You don't have to be on the high horse like I'm going to get into and talk about in a minute. Awareness without humility hardens quickly. It hardens a person, and the more that I take care of myself and the more, that I've been able to take care of myself financially and everything. My whole life, I've always been aware that people don't have because I didn't have. And so even whenever I used to go to church and stuff, I would never dress up. I would just dress like I normally dress. I would never see I understand it to, it's brainwashing the people. You go there, you get in your Sunday's best, you want to look good and all that. I get it. But everybody ain't got it. And if it's going to prevent somebody from showing up just because they ain't in the right clothes, the whole thing is fucking bullshit to begin with. So I never, even as I raised financially, I never switched up. And I had people in the church trying to give me clothes like, come on, bro, join us. Like you can. And it's just like, no, that's not how I roll, because that's not, if I'm like this out here, that's who I am in here. It doesn't change just because I'm in the building. So in order to understand people and be able to meet people where they are, I always kept that level of humility within myself. And my head will get all big and shit. Once I get really dressed up and shit, man, I really start feeling myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have shit growing up. And so whenever you get that shit, it's like you start kind of wilding out a little bit. You don't know how to handle it. I didn't even take my suit off from being married until like 2:30 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Because I was feeling that shit. So it's like I wouldn't even put myself in a position to have to be humbled in that way. Because I remember what it was like to have pants looking like high waters and shit, and shirts that don't fit, and hair looking nappy. I remember that shit. So why would I as I learn, I like to look nice. You know what I'm saying? I like to look together. But when it has to be like a show and a performance, I'm out, man. I'm good. Like, I just want to look good for my own sake and my own peace of mind, because I looked nappy as a kid and I don't want to look like that now. But once it starts transcending to where I got to be like, ooh, look at this ice and look at this drip and look, like we're good. We're getting on the high horse. And you forgot what it was like to have nothing. The high horse is only reserved for those who will inevitably have to fall off. Elevation built on illusion is unsustainable by design. Because at the end of the day, you're still in this bitch. You're still in this, right? It don't matter how much money you have. Like I was saying earlier, you still got to bury people. You still got to bury pets. You still get diarrhea. You still have the period. You still get the flu. Like, you ain't no different from anybody else just because you got some cash and you got some bling. Like, it's nice and shit. But once you start to take that shit on as an identity and start attaching all this bullshit ass meaning to it, bro, like, we're good. I'm out. Like, I'm out. You can have all that illusion, because it's all illusion. Is that motherfucking ice gonna make you feel better whenever you gotta bury your mama or your son? You know what I'm saying? Fuck no, that ice ain't gonna take care of that problem for you. It's an illusion. That's all. Reality corrects posturing without asking permission. Reality will hit that ass, won't it? You can have the bling and you can have the car and you can have this shit. And then guess what? You can get in an accident and lose your motherfucking leg. Or be paralyzed now. Oh, but you got the bling and you got the house and you got the status, but now you paralyzed as fuck. Cause reality done hit your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just another way of looking at it. Reality corrects posturing without asking permission. Life is going to teach you if you don't want to teach yourself. Life is going to teach you one way or another. So you might as well get the lessons so you don't have to keep repeating the course over and over and over and over and over. Those who those who've been through it don't stand above it. Just because I've been through all of this shit in my life and I overcame it to a large degree and still working on shit, it don't make me no better than the person that hasn't. It doesn't. I understand what they're about to go through. I understand what they live on a daily basis. So what am I looking like trying to put myself above measure just because I made it out the other end? Like, that's foolishness to me. That's absolutely insane. I feel like I know this, so I always have a deep sadness. Yeah, and that's what this is about, right? It's because the game recognizes game. That's why you won't do that to another person. That's why once you transcend this stuff, once you start to transcend, you can't go back and just be like, you know, I'm here and you're there now. Like, that's lunacy. I've never understood it, how people can get so far removed to where they came that they done lost their whole humanity. You know, it's never added up. That math is never math for me. Those who've been through it don't stand above it. And let's see, where's this one of what I was going to say? To be able to sense another's excuses before they are spoken is exhausting. And transcending things only to watch others who haven't is a stark reminder to stay humble. Not to get all haughty and shit. When you've transcended being molested or being, coming out of this situation or that situation, you've transcended that shit. And now you want to get around and be like, oh man, suck it up. You shouldn't be crying about that. Time has passed. You should be over that now. Man, you start doing that shit and reality will humble you. That's not the way it's done. Because you forget what it was like at those dark nights of the souls. And might have forgot where if it wouldn't have had been for a situation or circumstance or whatever, you just wouldn't be here. You was an inch away or a decision away from not being here. Like, you forget that type of shit. Seeing further does not exempt you from the process that got you there. You can see where a person is and see where they're headed and all that. It doesn't exempt you. So you can be the one that calls everybody out on their bullshit because you've been it. Oh yeah, where's that one? I didn't even go over that one. Yeah. In order to understand the shit, you would have had to smelt like it at one point in time. So you would have had to know the very shit that you're upset about, somebody making excuses about and not having their shit together in that area or whatever. You only know about it because you smelt that. You smelt like it because you was it at one point in life. In order to understand the shit, you would have had to have smelt like it at one point in time. Real understanding leaves residue. If nothing stuck to you, nothing was learned. Nothing was learned, nothing was earned, and you're just talking shit. But a person that's been through the shit, understands the shit, understands they used to smell like shit, and has cleaned themselves up, they understand the shit when they're around it. So there's no reason to be like, oh, I'm up here now and you're down there now. No. The only reason you recognize it is because you was it. Or you were so, the environment you were so surrounded by it that you know enough about it that the stink got on you. Because if you're even in a room with shit long enough and you leave the room, the shit smell is still on you, is it not? So whether you was the shit, if you was around it long enough, it left some fucking residue. The stench got on you. So you should be up. That's why you recognize it in other people, because you lived in it. You was it. It's one or the other. This is why Live Truth doesn't need decoration. You ain't got to go around telling everybody, man, I did this and I did that and everybody knows I'm this. And no, nobody's got to do all that with somebody that's lived it. When a motherfucker walks in the room, you know it. Whether they're fake, whether they're still figuring themselves out, whether they're so full of all of that. If somebody is talking and they're talking, you know it comes with a resonance. Yeah, they lived it. They got the receipts. Versus somebody else is just talking, which goes back to this. Listening to someone explaining shit without an explanation actually gives, given without an actual explanation given, it's a mind fuck. Just listen to somebody trying to explain some shit without an explanation. They don't have the explanation because they didn't live that shit. They only know of it. They wasn't really entrenched in it to really know about it. They can talk about it, but they can't speak on it from a place of experience. So listening to somebody explain shit without an explanation actually given, it's mind bending because you can smell that shit a mile away. It's like, bro, you are not him. You are not her. Like, put the fucking act away already. You know what I'm saying? Those people don't know who they are. And the reason why that you would be able to know that is because it was you at one point in time. You used to have a persona. All these personalities were so fragmented, you didn't put it together and be able to voice the real you. And so I understand it because I was that. I've been around it. So yeah. And a person that starts to transcend it will understand it, not talk shit about it, not put themselves above measure, but they become the observer of it. And then, like I say, you can share the life puzzle pieces and you can help people understand and see for themselves how full of shit they are. Because somebody that used to be full of shit, telling to somebody that's full of shit, they're going to listen to somebody that's been there and done it. Versus somebody that don't know anything and is just assuming a bunch of things. Because I'm talking very matter of fact to you. Whenever I'm talking to you and I'm telling you this is the thing, I care enough about you to call you up out of your own bullshit. And whenever I do that, trust me, it's coming from a place of love. It's not coming from a place of a high horse. It's only coming from a place of, I see the potential in you. Let me help you pull it out. You're full of shit. And I only know that because I was full of shit too. And then it breaks the ice and it's like, well, damn. Because if it would have just been like, you're full of shit, and it's like, motherfucker, how do you know? You don't know me. But if you go on to tell them how full of shit you were, then it's just like, oh, okay, you was full of shit and I can see my own bullshit now. And there's nowhere else to go with that. You have to transcend that. When you're dealing with real recognizes real, there's nowhere else to go with that but up. And then if not, it's just denial. And then, like I said over here, where did I say you can't, there's nothing else that can be done. Awareness becomes heavy when it has nowhere to go and nothing to resolve. So it's like game recognizes game. Oh, I see I recognize I'm full of shit, you know, but I'm gonna just deny it now. Well, now there's nothing else to resolve with you. I can't fuck with you no more. I can't deal with you. You gotta go. Let me see. Yeah, I was on the one with the shit. You can smell it. That shit was dope. When I was writing that shit, I was like, oh my goodness. That shit was so fire. Where is it at? To be able to sense other people's excuses, I did that one. Hear that one? Yeah, in order to understand the shit, you would have had to have to smelt like it at one point in time. Experience marks perceptions in ways explanation never can. So it's like you get around people that are shysty. And like I was in the dope game for a long time, right? So you get around some characters And you know whose scales are not balanced, right? You get around certain people and you just know this motherfucker's scales are always going to be short, whatever. You understand this. Real understand. Experience marks perceptions in ways explanation never can. So I've experienced the shystiness. I was never really the shyster. My skills were always balanced. I've always held that kind of life. You know, I've always walked and moved that way where others just didn't. So I experienced being around shysters, but that don't mean I am one, but I can recognize it and I can see it. And so I can call it out, even have never, ever having been the shyster, because it was a lived experience in a way that I got to see it enough to understand. And so it's just like, you don't have to be the piece of shit to understand the piece of shit. Whatever the piece of shit is. You could have been around it long enough that the stank got on you. Reality corrects posturing without asking permission. I already did that one. This is why lived truth doesn't need decoration. Lived truth never needs decoration. It's felt, it's seen, it's lived out. There's evidence behind it. And then you can tell when people are just trying way too hard. You know, just be you. Just live your experience out. And then a lot of this shit, you know, you don't want to bring up and kind of tout and throw around and shit. Because those times in your life you ain't proud of no more. Because they were all done in survival mode. So it's like, there's no way I want to be going around talking about how much dope I sold and how much this I did and this and that. And I used to carry a gun. And I was never him. I was never that dude that was like, you know, wanted to be strapped up. I understood what comes with carrying the gun. And that's whenever I really started to tap out. I was like, if I got to start carrying this shit, I need to, it's like, this math don't math because this shit ain't me. But I did because I knew what I was in and what was happening. But that shit wasn't me. I wasn't no killer, no none of that shit. I was just smart in the game and knew how to maneuver. But like, I wasn't no gangster. I wasn't no motherfucking, I wasn't him. Even though I was around some hims, I know how to move around him. I know how to talk to him. But that don't make me him. Shit. That's how people fuck around and die and get all hemmed up and shit. Trying to be something that you're not, because people can smell that shit a mile away. And so it's like they can smell whether you got the residue or whether you're the shit. Let's put it that way. A person they can recognize whether they're smelling the residue of something or whether that was a true ass, bona fide piece of shit ass motherfucker, boy. You know what I'm saying? Because game recognizes game. In any arena, you can take it to the streets, you can take it to the sex, you can take it to any arena where somebody has that shit on lock. And you get around that arena and you're going to find out real quick whether you belong in that arena or not. And that's my time, guys. I got to go. I got to get back to work. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hope we learned something. Let me go over the summary real quick. Let me sum it up. Awareness carries weight long before words ever do. Awareness is not comfort. It is the weight of seeing what is forming, what is avoided, and what only experience can teach. So whenever, you know, somebody's calling you out on your shit and you know it's the truth, like that's game recognizing game. You know, it's awareness peeping awareness. And then whenever it doesn't match up, it always reveals itself. But that's my time, guys. I got to go. You guys have a good night. I'll be back at 11:30 if we don't go to early break. You guys have a good night. I appreciate the likes and the love.